Hello and welcome back to the workshop. In today's video we're going to be looking at wheel trim. Let's get to it. Although I have my wheel spinning here in a truing stand, the same can be accomplished almost just as easily with the wheel in the bicycle frame itself, so no real specialist equipment required other than a spoke key. Now at the moment this wheel is running quite straight, and the spokes, and the reason it's running quite straight of course is because the spokes are all evenly tensioned. The spokes on this side pull the wheel towards me, and the spokes on the opposite side are pulling the wheel in the opposite direction, and they are all nicely balanced. So now I will undo a couple of spokes at random, and let's look at how to straighten it afterwards. Now that I've loosened a couple of spokes, it's quite easy to see that the wheel has quite a buckle or a wobble to one side. Apart from potentially weakening the wheel, one of the major impacts of a buckled wheel with rim braked wheels is that the rim may now no longer fit through the calipers, the brake calipers themselves. So of course braking performance is then decreased. To find out exactly which spokes need adjusting to straighten the wheel, I'm moving the arms of the wheel truing stand in until it touches the rim. You can hear the noise there as it scrapes along. And in this case it's just a very small section of the rim that needs pulling over to the left hand side as we look at the wheel from the rear. Looking at the wheel from the side, we can hear the noise at the point where the guides are scraping against the wheel, and right next to that spot, just checking the spokes, but there is one very loose spoke right there. A spoke key will be required to tighten the spoke. Of course, as one might expect, there are many different types, so do make sure you get one that is the right size. Some of these are quite specialist. The red one from Park Tools fits most wheels of the older sort of style steel spokes, but in this case I know that the blue one fits this particular fulcrum wheel. As this wheel has flat bladed spokes, a pair of pliers can be used to hold the blade in the right direction straight, but far kinder to the spoke is a purpose-built tool for it, usually made of plastic or something soft so as not to scratch the spoke itself. Looking at the spoke and nipple from the inside of the rim, the spoke or the nipple can be tightened, turning the spoke key anti-clockwise. So another quick look at the wheel from behind, just to get an idea of how much it needs to be straightened by. And then let's identify which spoke needs to be tightened. So just checking the spokes, and the guides are rubbing against the rim only over a very, very short distance there. So moving to the spoke nearest to that. Because the spoke is very loose, I will tighten it up by a couple of turns, but normally a quarter of a turn is sufficient, particularly as the wheel becomes straighter and straighter. So step by step, slow is best. A quick spin of the wheel, it's no longer rubbing, but it's still got quite a buckle to the right hand side. So that same spoke needs to be tightened up a little bit more, but spokes work in pairs, and as this one spoke becomes tighter and tighter and gets back to near its normal tension, the spoke on the opposite side will need to be loosened slightly to balance it out. So don't just keep tightening one side without loosening the other. And here we can see the wheel is now almost straight. It's maybe a couple of millimeters out. So now I'm tightening that spoke out a little bit more, maybe by no more than a quarter of a turn. That should be sufficient to take away that last little bit. But I'm also now loosening the spoke opposite by a quarter of a turn. That's simply because I don't want to put too much tension on that one spoke. So just loosening that one off a fraction, and now let's have another look at the wheel run out. And as you can see, it has just still a tiny bump of maybe 1 millimeter or less. So another quick adjustment, and the run out on this, or the wobble if you like, is probably less than 0.5 millimeter, which is acceptable and no need to overdo it, not on a wheel of this type. And once complete, good idea to go around, squeeze pairs of spokes together. That releases any tension held on in the nipple itself. So don't forget, in this example the spoke was very loose. The same could be caused by a broken spoke. Best results are achieved by doing things very slowly. It can take quite a bit of time. So I would recommend 1/8 to 1/4 of a turn when tightening or loosening spokes, and do remember that spokes work in pairs. If you tighten one side, it's best to loosen the other side as well, assuming of course a basic tension is there all round in the first place. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, please leave a comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.